Hello, my name is Stories by WS, and you are warmly welcome to my channel. Today's story is not just something to listen to, it is something to feel. It is a story meant to settle into your heart slowly, the way memories do, the way truth does when we stop running from it. It speaks of regret that sleeps for years without fading, of kindness that survives cruelty without turning bitter, and of faith that waits patiently, never rushing, until the heart is finally ready. Stay with me until the end, because this story unfolds the way real life does, quietly at first, then all at once. In a crowded town where people chased success endlessly and measured worth by wealth and status, there lived a woman named Madame Ronki. Her mansion stood tall and silent, set apart from the noise of the streets, as if it too wished to remain untouched by the chaos of human lives. Tall iron gates guarded its entrance, cold and unwelcoming, and inside them lay gardens trimmed so perfectly they looked unreal, almost lifeless. Every leaf was in place, every path spotless. Everything in her life appeared controlled, polished, and flawless. From a distance, people admired her. Up close, they feared her. To many, she was powerful. To some, she was cold. And to herself, she was something she never dared to name. Madame Ronki had not always been this way. Long before the mansion, before the wealth, before pride hardened her voice and posture, she had been young and afraid. She had once believed in warmth, in hope, in the promise of tomorrow. But life had cornered her, and fear had spoken louder than courage. Over time, that frightened version of herself was buried beneath years of ambition and silence. She convinced herself that if she never looked back, the pain could never catch her. And so she ran forward relentlessly, gathering riches, authority, and influence, believing that success would eventually fill the hollow space inside her chest. It never did. Her days were filled with noise, voices calling her name, footsteps echoing through long halls, commands given and obeyed without question, but her nights were painfully empty. When darkness fell and the mansion grew quiet, Madame Ronki felt the full weight of something missing. She would lie awake staring at the ceiling, listening to her own breathing, feeling a strange tightness in her heart that no medicine could ease. Sometimes she dreamed of rain falling endlessly. Sometimes she heard a baby crying somewhere far away, just beyond reach. Each time she woke with her heart racing, she scolded herself and pushed the memories away. Weakness, she told herself. The past no longer mattered. Or at least, that is what she wanted to believe. Every morning began with control. She woke early, not refreshed, but restless, as though sleep itself betrayed her. Servants hurried through the halls, afraid to be seen moving too slowly or speaking too loudly. Madame Ronki spoke sharply, never saying please, never saying thank you. She believed respect was something to be demanded, not earned. Servants came and went, worn down by her temper and coldness. Those who stayed learned to endure, in silence, learning that survival meant invisibility. And then, one quiet morning, Amara arrived. She stepped through the iron gates with no sense of fear, only quiet determination. She carried very little with her, just a small bag and a heart shaped by hardship and hope. Life had not been gentle with her, but it had been honest. She had grown up without knowing her real parents, raised instead by a foster mother whose love had been simple, steady, and unconditional. From her, Amara learned that kindness was not weakness, that patience was strength, and that anger only multiplied pain. When her foster mother fell ill, Amara did not hesitate. She chose responsibility over comfort and walked into a house known for breaking people. When Madame Ronki first saw her, irritation rose instantly. There was something about the girl's calm expression that unsettled her. Fear made people easy to control, but Amara did not look afraid. "You look too soft," Madame Ronki said coldly, her eyes narrowing. This house does not spare anyone. Make mistakes, and you will regret them." Amara bowed her head respectfully and answered, "Yes, Ma, I understand." There was no trembling in her voice, no resentment, only acceptance. And somehow, that disturbed Madame Ronke more than defiance ever could. From that day forward, Amara worked harder than anyone in the house. She woke before sunrise and slept long after midnight. She cleaned until her hands ached, cooked with care, carried heavy loads without complaint, and served with quiet dedication. No matter how tired she felt, she never allowed bitterness to take root in her heart. Madame Ronke criticized her constantly, sometimes over the smallest things. A plate placed slightly off-center, a floor cleaned twice but still judged unclean. Words were spoken harshly, deliberately meant to wound, as if testing how much cruelty kindness could endure. The other maids expected Amara to cry, to argue, or to leave. She did none of those things. When they whispered to her in secret, asking how she endured it all, she answered gently that pain often hides behind anger, and that responding with kindness was sometimes the only way to break the cycle. At night, alone in her small room, Amara allowed herself to feel the weight of exhaustion. She prayed quietly for her foster mother's health and reminded herself that dignity did not depend on how others treated her, but on how she treated others. Slowly, without meaning to, Amara began to change the house, not the walls, not the furniture, but the feeling inside it. Madame Ronke noticed it in small, uncomfortable moments. A hallway that felt warmer than before, a room that seemed less silent. Sometimes she caught herself watching Amara help an older servant without being asked, or gently repair something broken before anyone noticed. There was something familiar in the way Amara moved, in the softness of her smile, in the patience of her eyes. It stirred something deep within Madame Ronke, something she had locked away long ago. She hated that feeling. She told herself it was nothing, just curiosity, just coincidence. Yet at night, the dreams returned more vividly than before. Rain, falling endlessly, a bundle wrapped in white cloth, her own hands shaking as she turned away from a church gate. She woke with tears in her eyes and anger in her chest, angry at herself for remembering what she had sworn to forget. Then came the night that shattered everything she believed she controlled. Madame Ronke was hosting a formal dinner, surrounded by people who praised her elegance and success. She smiled politely, playing the role she had mastered over a lifetime. Suddenly, a sharp pain tore through her chest. Her breath vanished. The room spun violently. Before anyone could reach her, she collapsed to the floor. In the chaos that followed, as she was rushed to the hospital, her consciousness flickered. Memories flooded her mind, unstoppable now. The sound of church bells, rain-soaked streets, a baby's cry breaking her heart, and the choice she had made out of fear. At the hospital, doctors worked urgently. The news was grim. Her condition was critical and her blood type was rare. One by one, servants volunteered to be tested. None were a match. Fear spread quietly through the room, heavy and suffocating. As hope began to fade, Amara watched silently, her heart pounding. Then she stepped forward. She offered her arm without hesitation, without drama. The doctor warned her of the risks and reminded her that she was not family. Amara simply nodded and said that life was valuable, no matter whose it was. When the results came back confirming she was a perfect match, the room fell into stunned silence. Amara donated without complaint. As the blood flowed, she felt weak, but her heart remained steady. She closed her eyes and whispered a prayer, not for herself, but for the woman who had never shown her kindness, yet needed it now more than ever. When Madame Ronke finally woke, she felt fragile in a way she never had before. The room was quiet, her body was weak. Her heart felt strangely open. When she saw Amara sitting beside her bed, pale and exhausted, confusion washed over her. When she learned the truth that this young woman had saved her life, tears fell. Freely, for the first time in decades, she did not stop them or hide them. Recovery was slow, but something inside Madame Ronki was changing faster than her body. She began to speak more gently, to ask questions she had never asked, and to listen instead of command. She found herself drawn to Amara, to her stories, to her quiet strength. One afternoon, she admitted softly that Amara felt familiar, as if she were looking at a reflection of a past she had nearly erased. When Amara spoke of her foster mother, of being found as a baby near a church, the world seemed to stop. The name of the church echoed in Madame Ronki's mind like thunder. Her hands trembled, her breath caught. She asked Amara's age, already knowing the answer before it was spoken. The truth could no longer be denied. When Madame Ronki confessed, her voice broke under the weight of years of regret. She spoke of fear, of loneliness, of a choice she had carried like an open wound that never healed. Amara listened, tears streaming down her face, her heart aching. Not with anger, but with understanding. And then, instead of stepping away, she stepped closer. She took her mother's trembling hands and forgave her. In that moment, something ancient and broken was healed. The days that followed felt like a rebirth. The mansion no longer echoed with fear, but with laughter and warmth. Madame Ronki treated her servants with respect and humility, finally understanding that true power meant compassion, not control. And Amara, once a maid, became the living proof that kindness survives even the harshest storms. The woman who had lived for years in bitterness learned that love does not disappear, it waits, because fate never forgets and kindness always finds its way home. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe. Moral of the story: the heart never forgets kindness, and forgiveness heals, and love always finds its way back.